Welcome back to Stories Worth Hearing. I'm your host, Jonathan Quick. Today I'm joined by Sir Marco Robinson, an entrepreneur whose story is almost impossible to believe. After growing up homeless, Marco became the youngest executive to lead a Malaysian public company, helping grow it into a billion-dollar business in just 3 years. He went on to create and star in the hit Channel 4 television series Get a House for Free, become an 8-time #1 best-selling author, build companies including the Wealth Revolution Group, Naked Restaurants, and The Rich List, invest in and help produce the Netflix hit Legacy of Lies, and personally acquire more than 100 investment properties. His humanitarian work has been just as remarkable. Marco was awarded the honorary title of Dato Seri, the equivalent of a knighthood, for helping change the law in Malaysia so guide dogs could legally accompany blind citizens into public places, impacting more than 350,000 people. Today we talk about the lessons behind his incredible journey, what it takes to build billion-dollar businesses, why he's never been afraid to bet on impossible ideas, and how purpose has shaped every chapter of his life. Sir Marco Robinson, welcome to Stories Worth Hearing.
Well, it's a pleasure to be talking to someone from Alaska, one of my dream places.
Yeah. Got to put that. It's on most people's bucket lists. It's on yours, it sounds like.
You know, I've got a question for you while we're on.
Yes.
Do you believe in the abominable snowman?
Oh yeah, there's got to be something out there. I mean, I feel like
Sasquatch.
Right? Yeah, there's got to be. I don't know what it is, but there's thousands of species in the Amazon rainforest that nobody's ever seen before. So there's got to be something out there that is crazy that nobody's ever seen before. That's my philosophy.
There's a crazy amount of TV shows that's been dedicated to that subject.
Oh, yeah, people get excited about the Sasquatch and all that kind of stuff. So, your story is fascinating. I think it'll be fun for my listeners to hear your story and kind of what you've been doing in your life. I think that your story is kind of like the American dream story. I know you live in the UK, but it's somebody who created their own opportunities, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
So before we talk about the wild success that you had, tell me what it was like growing up in the UK. We talked a little bit before about kind of poking fun at the UK, but what was it like growing up, over there, not in America? Most of our listeners are living in America. So talk a little bit about that.
I think it's quite similar. I mean, when I was, my earliest memories, my earliest memory was me, I think I was about 1 year old, and I was crawling on the carpet, and I was crawling on newspapers, and I smelt cigar smoke and smelly feet, and it was actually my dad who was betting on racehorses for the weekend and studying form, I realized later, right? So that's my earliest memory, and from that, I guess I realized that my dad early on was a gambler, but totally addicted, and until his death, he died last year. But we were not close, because my mum left him when I was 2. She was 23. I think we discussed that the other day a little bit, because of his addiction, and he ran debts up so much that in those days you could get like accounts with local stores.
Yeah.
Up to it, and he just went on, and it was getting really bad. And he used to use my mum's money and all kinds of stuff. So she left him. She was 23. I was 2. She went to live with her mum in the north of England to that was her only option, which was cold, not as cold as Alaska, but pretty bloody cold in January. And she was on the doorstep, and her mum came outside to greet her, and her stepdad came outside to greet as well. Not to greet, I would say, not really, because he came out and said to her mum, it's either me or them. If she comes in here, I'm going. So her mum said to her, when she had me in her arms, you can't stay here. And she was hysterical because she had nowhere else to go. And she basically walked around town with me in her arms. And eventually we got to the park. She got to the park, tore some branches down. We lived in the park. It was like, that was what it was like. And it was like at survival mode at that point. Yeah. And ironically, we got taken in by strangers that happened to be my mum's next door neighbor, which is something I don't really talk about much. And they took us in. But the story was that there's a reason why he was so anti us, because her backstory only came out 50 years later, because that's when I was asked to do the Channel 4 TV show, Get a House for Free, in 2017. they said, listen, we have to know the backstory of your mum and you. We know you were homeless. That's why we contacted you, because we've seen your story and how you turned it around. And then she came out with this backstory that she was sexually abused from the age of 4. When she was 12, he put his hand on her breast and said, I didn't marry mum for your mum, married your mum to get to you. So she was consumed by the patriarch at the height of the patriarch.
Yeah.
And she told her siblings, which were all his kids, and they defended him because he was the breadwinner. So she couldn't do anything with that. But she was terrified to go back there. And her backstory only came out 50 years later. And
Wow.
before that, she was still in that family in a serving kind of way because that was the way she was conditioned. But when that story came out and the TV show came out, that side of the family asked me to give them a house because it wasn't fair. I shouldn't give it to them. I should have given it to that side of the family, right? So she realized the truth. And since that day, she kind of divorced that side of the family.
Nice.
And then the whole story came out of the abuse. And I was obviously, so angry.
Oh, yeah.
He was dead by that stage, but, still, it was something that she kept inside for so long.
So you couldn't confront him because he was gone. That's got to be frustrating.
No, I couldn't do that anymore.
Yeah.
And even when he was still alive, it was dementia and all that. So it wasn't really, he wasn't the thing. So all that came out, and my jaw was on the basement, and the basement below that, because I was so shocked at what happened of someone that could be so entrapped in that mindset for so long.
Do you think that's given you an edge on? Because I talked to entrepreneurs all over the world, and there is a difference of edge from folks that have grew up in money and have college funds and. Here's $1 million when you graduate.
The Nepo babies. We call them Nepo babies, Jonathan.
And nothing against that. If my parents want to give me $1 million, let it happen. But do you think that gave you an edge because literally sleeping on park benches, having a neighbor rescue you from, you guys from being like homeless, you've tasted the taste of having no money. And
for many years.
I find that does give people an edge.
It did give me an edge, but she was so protective of me that I didn't see that. I didn't have that total exposure to danger, and from her point of view, she wanted to marry someone that was going to protect her. That was and she married someone that seemed to be the right guy. And he was a long distance truck driver. He did long distance stuff. So he was away most of the week, but he ended up being bipolar. So when I came home, when I was coming home from school, there was a lot of domestic violence, throwing things at each other and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't sleep on the bed. I used to sleep under the bed. I ran away from home a lot. So that made me very insular, very shy, right? And when I was at school, I couldn't connect with academics because there was so much going on at home, but also because I thought I was stupid. I mean, literally in those days, if you didn't connect to academics, they would actually put you in a stupid class. And they called it 1T. And these in England, thick means stupid. So we were labeled as that. So we believed we were,
That's crazy.
And we were bullied to shit because of all that crap. And, in those days, I had bright orange hair. I was so ginger. I still am. You can see it in the light. But I used to pray that my ginger hair would turn brown. And I used to put boot polish and stuff and disguise it because I was bullied to shit. True story. But I was the boy at the back of the classroom from 6 years old, looking out the window, wanting to escape. And I used my imagination because that's the only thing I could control. That's the only thing I had that was mine. And at that time, that was about 1973-4. And at the time I connected with James Bond. James Bond film then was the Man with the Golden Gun with Roger Moore. That was my go-to film. And I used to imagine myself in Asia with a beautiful woman, loads of money, fast car, saving, chasing the bad guys. So I channeled that like every single day. And that was my escape, if you like.
Do you think that saved you from that portion of your life from going into, because I would say the majority of kids that experience that would then go into drugs, alcohol, whether they bad crowd, gang banging or whatever you want to call it. Did that escape save you a little bit, do you think?
I think it did because I kind of learned a skill to connect with my spiritual side, my inner side. And I guess I got really good at that, but I didn't realize it. I didn't know what I was doing, So I didn't connect with school. I hated it, literally hated it to death. I used to run away all the time and didn't connect with academics ever. So, Now I realize that was ADHD, autism. It wasn't a thing then. It wasn't a thing at all. And I believed that that wasn't good enough for university. It wasn't good enough for even for work because I thought I was useless. So my self-worth was in the toilet, you know? And then she, as I said, she remarried this other guy. And when I was 15, she left him and met someone that she spent the rest of life with. It was a happy ending. But I realized that I didn't want to be around him because I was living with him on my own. And he had a girlfriend, and it's a long story, but I decided to do something about it. So I basically went around the town and asked the shops if I could clean their floors for £1 an hour.
Yeah.
And one of them said yes.
Nice.
And I just started cleaning floors and got really good at doing that. And then I got a lot of contracts in the town. And I used to sleep in the basement of, like, those days, there was a big Woolworths. I don't know if you remember that, but Woolworths was a department store that was huge.
Oh, yeah.
And I got the contract to it. So I used to sleep in the basement or the roof, but no one knew. I was like what we call the hidden homeless then, right? But I was still amazingly shy. I wasn't very good. I wasn't socially good. I wasn't a communicator. And that went on for a couple of years. And I said to myself, well, I need to get out of this situation. I was always ambitious because I had that vision. I knew I could do something better. I knew it inside of me, but I didn't have the confidence. Do you know what I mean?
So tell me what it was like. I mean, one of the things that I find fascinating about your story is you have this, tough upbringing, and sounds like a phenomenal mom who loved you through it. But you get an opportunity at an early age, I think your early 20s, to become CEO or run a publicly traded company in Malaysia. How the heck did that happen? That's just like,
well, that didn't happen then. That didn't happen then. So when I was 20 years old, I knew I needed to leave that town. It was like the smallest town in England, and I knew that I wasn't going to make it there. So basically, a friend offered me a job selling timeshare, because those days that was a big thing.
oh yeah, timeshare was a big thing back then.
Was a big thing. It was an American company. It was a really good company. And I went to train to sell timeshare, even though I was so not confident at all. But I knew I needed to grow, and I needed a baptism of fire, really, right? But I was the worst salesperson the company ever had. I couldn't sell a bloody thing. I didn't sell anything for 6 weeks. It was like £10,000 to buy a week of timeshare, commission only. And I was getting like, everyone loved me though, because it was like funny. I made everyone laugh and stuff, but I wasn't making any sales. And the boss said to me and said, listen, if you don't sell in the next 2 days, we're going to have to get rid of you because we can't keep you on. So that was a trigger for me unconsciously, because in my mind, that my internal narrative was, why am I such a loser? Why can't I succeed? Maybe I should go back and clean floors. That was my destiny. But when the boss said, you're gonna lose your job, something shifted within me, and the question changed to, how can I succeed? That was it. And that was my manifestation, the incantation. I used to say it like literally all the time, very loud, walking down the street. People thought I was crazy. But the next day, a miracle happened. The top salesperson, who had never met properly, approached me and said, listen, Marco, I know what's going on. I know you think you're going to be fired, and you think you're a loser. But listen, I was just like you, and I came to this job, and someone actually came and mentored me and gave me a book which changed my life. And that's why I became the top salesperson. And I want to help you, because they said to me, I will help you if you help someone else in your situation. So he told me this story, and it was like, oh my God, this is like the answer I've been looking for.
Yeah.
And he gave me this book and said, listen, read the book, go home tonight, read the book, and don't stop reading it until you get the lesson or the message from the book. So I went home and read the book literally 8 times. It's the first book I ever read, pretty much from cover to cover. And by the 8th time I read it, I'd received something which was magical to me, because it was like I started to believe in myself, and the fear went. It was like I didn't give a fuck anymore if I failed or if I won. It didn't matter. What I did have is I had all this energy and belief in me, and I didn't really care what happened about the result. I wasn't thinking in the future. I was so in the present. And I went to work the following day. And in those days, they used to bring the prospects to the office, and you used to have to collect them in the reception. And they went to collect this couple, and they had a dog with them. I thought, well, that's quite unusual. And I didn't notice anything else. And I started bringing them into the showroom, and I realized they both had white sticks. And thought, oh, fuck, they're blind.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, how the hell am I going to sell them timeshare? They can't even see me, let alone the timeshare. But it was like I felt it was a test. So I sat them down and said, listen, you're going to sit there for 5 hours. You're going to love me. You're going to love this product. You're going to spend £10,000. And I was so confident. I don't know where it came from, this kind of inner belief. And they said to me, no, we're not. We're leaving now. We hate timeshare. It's a big scam. And that what it was, that was what it was like. But I didn't care. I wasn't afraid for the first time. So I just kept talking and gave it everything I had because I believed in the product. And by the end of 5 hours, there was silence. And he shuffled around in his chair and he put his wallet on the table. He said, listen, take out my gold credit card and listen, we absolutely freaking love this. Put £10,000 on it. It's the best thing we've ever seen in life. And actually, we would have bought it 4 hours ago, but you wouldn't shut up. So, and my first response was, why the hell did you buy from me? It's like kind of blurted it out because no one had ever, that was my first success ever, right?
Yeah.
And they said, this is your first sale. I said, yeah. And they started laughing. And when I started laughing, and eventually when they calmed down, I said, listen, the reason we bought from you is because you transferred your belief to us. And that's why we bought. And that was the most pivotal moment in my entire life. Everything after that went to the moon.
So what was the book? What book did the guy give you? Do you remember?
But I will say to contextualize this, it was the right book at the right time, right? So this book was called Bring Out the Magic in Your Mind by an author called Al Quran. Now, this was a book written in the 50s, and Al Quran was a magician. And he was the first magician in the world to create a trick where he guessed what was in a box. He always guessed it right. He had this trick. And he was world famous at that time. And it was just a book about belief and believing in yourself and, you know, all this kind of stuff. And it was like phenomenal for me, you know?
So you make your first sale. You're probably feeling really good about, what's going on. Fast forward a little bit because I think I want to be mindful of your time, but I want to talk a little bit about some of the cool new things that you've got your hands in because it's just fascinating to me that for folks listening in, I want to encourage you to go check out Marco's website. It's got the laundry list of all the stuff that he's kind of been a part of and is, currently doing. But you got your own TV show. I want to talk a little bit about that because this is really cool. I read it and I thought, man, this is a really unique thing. It's not everybody gets approached to have their own TV show. I mean, literally, you know, it's very rare to happen. So talk to me a little bit about how that came about and what it was like hosting your own TV show. That's kind of a big deal. It became wildly popular and successful. Would love to hear the backstory on that.
Yeah, so obviously I never even dreamed that I'd have my own TV show. You don't think about that, really, do you? But moving on from the timeshare thing, I got so good at doing that I was headhunted all over the world. And I ended up being in Malaysia to basically run a public company, and I turned it into a $6 billion company. And the reason that happened is because I learned how to develop people. I learned how to care for people and scale like I gave a shit, and that was always my thing. So once I did that, I left. I stayed in Malaysia 22 years altogether, and I was still
Wow.
in Malaysia. I was still in Malaysia when Channel 4 TV, and Channel 4 TV in England is one of the biggest TV stations, like a primetime TV station. And they contacted me because they'd seen my book and read my story online, and they were looking for someone who had been homeless, who wanted to give back to address the social housing issue. Because obviously, as you know, Jonathan, a lot of people these days can't afford a house. Young people are never going to get in the property ladder anymore, pretty much, right? That's the way it is. So they wanted me to make a statement that someone had the kindness to do this to help someone out. So they asked me to do it and made the TV show. I gave a house away to a young girl and her daughter, which was a mirror of me and my mum.
Mm-hmm.
And then I gave help to a Syrian asylum seekers. I helped them stay in one of my houses and get them asylum. Beautiful family. And then there was a blind lady who, ironically, helped as well I paid a deposit for a house. So that was hugely successful. And when I made that TV show, it went literally to 67 countries. It went nuts.
Yeah.
And it did make an impact,
Do you still get people contacting you today because of that, just specifically the TV
Yeah.
show?
Well, at the time when that TV show came out, I must have been getting about 3,000 messages a day, Jonathan. But the messages were, "Can you please give me a house?" It
Yeah, can
wasn't
you give me a house too?
like, right, anything else? Yeah, yeah. So that was amazing, yeah.
So did you ever, to go back a little bit, I'm curious, did you ever find or contact that family that when you're living in the park benches and stuff that took a risk on you and your mom and invited you into their
Well, yeah,
house? Did you
we
stay in
became
contact with them?
yeah, became lifelong friends, of course. Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
So some of the cool things you're doing now, you I think you just finished or you're just starting another one, Netflix movie. And, man, it's a it's a one thing to have your own TV show on, primetime TV. It's another thing to fund, produce, and get a top Netflix movie going. Did you Was that something you sought out to do, or is it one of those things that just kind of happened,
Well,
like
again,
most things happen in your life, I feel like?
yeah. So going back to the James Bond thing, I'd always wanted to make a film and star in it as a spy, right? As the coolest thing to do, and I ended up doing that. And cut a long story short, I put 500,000 into this project, and it went to #2 in Netflix USA. Now, I played a small, tiny part in that film, but I helped produce it, fund it, and all the rest of it. And I learned so many things about that. Made so many mistakes. And I knew I wanted to do film as part of what I was doing. But I wanted to make film that was different, unique. And now, because of the Start Over project, where the book series has gone to #1 all over the world, you're literally a new #1 best-selling author. You know how that feels, right?
Oh yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Not everybody in the
So
world could do it. There's only one at the #1 spot.
that's it. That's it. So because of the success of the book series about people's comeback stories, I thought, why don't we make a TV documentary? So there's a movie about my story and the people that know me, and now that's spawning a TV documentary series. So there's going to be like 4 people per episode where we're going to go back to their lowest point and how they made a comeback and a success of themselves. Yeah.
Yeah, somebody that does that really well. It's not exactly what you're talking about, but a guy in the US, Marcus Lemonis, has done he's a business guy that's ventured into TV and has done really well, kind of helping and inspiring business owners to be better. So I think shows like that naturally do pretty well because there's so much BS and crap on TV that it's nice to have something that's like, okay, this person's actually trying to help somebody and it's legit. And I think it inspires people in their own life as they're sitting on their couch watching TV to go do something with their life. So I think that's cool. There's going to be folks listening in that are going to want to check you out. I know you do coaching and mentoring and those kinds of things. Talk to me a little bit about how, what do you do there and how folks can contact you. I'll put all the links in the podcast description, but that's a really cool part of what you do is like you've inspired people, you've made money, you've been successful, but you also now coach and train other people to do the same in their own lives.
Yeah. I mean, I think my thing has been personal brand. And I'm really good at helping people find the potential, but believe they can actually do it. So I help people build something from their story into something they can make money from that actually helps other people. And that becomes a huge, very powerful personal brand because now, as you know, Jonathan, with the AI, personal brand is everything. People want to know who's behind the thing before they want to work with someone or buy stuff from them. It's all about identity. It's about courage. It's about story. It's about consistency. It's about, I want to work with that person because they've got what I want and they've achieved what I want, but they can help me do it, you know?
And you help folks find that and do that in their own lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. Well, I appreciate your time. We've gone 25 minutes. I want to be mindful of your time. Is there any last minute thoughts before we head off for folks listening in? I'll put all the links in the description. If you're curious about how to take your life to the next level, I want to encourage you to reach out to Marco. He's doing some great stuff. He's got an amazing track record and he's helping other folks do the same. But Marco, any last minute thoughts here before we head off?
Yeah. I mean, it's a cliche, but at the end of the day, anything's possible. It doesn't matter where you are, who you're with. What matters is finding yourself within yourself and having that space and solitude to really dig deep and think, who the fuck am I? What the fuck do I want? What am I here to do? And once you find that purpose, and like Tony Hopkins, says, believe in yourself. Just believe it. It doesn't matter. Believe it with so much belief with every fiber of your body that you know you can do it. And that's been the story of my life. And yes, it's not been easy. It's been fucking hard, right? I mean, there were so many low points. But at the end of the day, I'm nearly 60 years old. I just don't give a fuck about what happens next. All I care about is maximizing my potential so I can help someone get to where they need to get to,
That's great. Well, we wish you nothing but success. For folks listening in, go check him out. If you're wanting to, level up in your life, I definitely recommend checking out his website and contacting him. You're welcome back anytime, and we hope you have a great rest of your day, Marco.
Thank you, Jonathan.